John was completely enchanted by Pamela. The young Southern woman was stunningly beautiful and had a knack for attracting the attention of men. By the age of 27, she had already been married twice and divorced twice. John couldn't understand how this could have happened to her in such a short time, since she was too young to be divorced so often. When John asked her about her ex-husbands, she just shrugged and said they couldn't handle her temper. And in some ways, they were right. After all, the girl was a hurricane in life and in bed. She was insatiable and always wanted more. Less than 6 months after meeting John and Pamela married. Until then, John knew almost nothing about Pamela's family. It wasn't until the day of the wedding that he met her father, a withdrawn man who seemed unfazed by the marriage. Her mother, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. After seeing her, John realized where Pamela got her looks and personality from. Rebecca, his mother-in-law, was simply stunning for her age. Men who happened to be in her neighborhood couldn't help but be charmed by her long white hair, expressive facial features, and penetrating gaze. But it was her beautiful body that attracted them even more. She liked to wear short skirts and dresses with large necklines. Along with her provocative appearance, her behavior matched it. She was used to being the center of attention and believed that everyone owed her something. The idea that she belonged to the royal lineage had long been ingrained in her mind. She never held back her thoughts and was bold enough to speak her mind. When she first saw John, she had arrogantly remarked, "Pamela? Another one, eh? Well, let's see how long you hold out, handsome." With those words, Rebecca turned on her heels and sped away, leaving John with mixed feelings and thoughts. Pamela reassured her husband, asking him not to be offended by her mother's words, and attributed them to her unique sense of humor. However, it soon became clear that there was no humor involved. Despite this, the wedding itself was delightful, and during the honeymoon, John managed to forget about the statements of his mother-in-law for a while. However, after the trip, Pamela informed him that her parents had invited them to their house for dinner, as much as the man did not want to spend the last weekend before work alone with his wife, but he had to agree. He didn't want to upset his lovely wife. Their new relatives lived in a spacious private house, a 5-minute walk from the sea. They used to rent apartments to vacationers, but this year they decided to take a break and enjoy the peace and quiet, leaving the 3-story house almost empty. Spending time in a small family circle liked John much more than socializing with his wife's relatives at the wedding. During this time, he saw a different side of his father-in-law and mother-in-law. Although Rebecca still had an arrogant demeanor, her jokes and style of conversation no longer struck John as rude or inappropriate. John kept his eyes on his mother-in-law. Even in the evening, when the temperature dropped a little, she wore a dress that showed off her shoulders, and her long, slender legs were adorned with fashionable sandals. From time to time, she would cross her legs, as if on purpose, to show off their beauty and attract the attention of her son-in-law. All four enjoyed delicious drinks, which were consumed with incredible ease, as a result of which, by the end of the evening, everyone was in a good mood. The father-in-law went out to smoke and dispose of the empty bottles, inviting John to keep him company. It was the first time he had taken a personal interest in him, and John couldn't refuse. As they stepped aside and lit a cigarette, father-in-law scrutinized his son-in-law before uttering a short sentence. "Be careful," he warned. "With what?" John inquired. "Not with what, but with who?" "With those women," clarified father-in-law. "You mean Pamela and Rebecca?" "You should be careful with all women, but especially those women," advised father-in-law. "Why?" asked John. "They'll drink all the juice off you and not choke on it," replied father-in-law. John breathed a sigh of relief, turned, and silently retired to the house. John was very much puzzled by his behavior. It seemed that his father-in-law had already been through so many bad things with his wife and daughter that he waved his hand and silently walked away. However, John could not understand his father-in-law's action. What kind of trouble could two seductive beauties bring? Of course, neither of them were naive country girls. They were strong-willed women. However, John felt that this was not a flaw, but rather their unique quality. When John returned to the girl's house, his father-in-law was gone, and the three of them continued their conversation. In his absence, the atmosphere had become even warmer and more frank. Rebecca, whom John hesitated to call mother-in-law because of her stunning appearance, turned out to be a remarkably good woman. If they had been alone together, one might have thought she was trying to seduce him. Sitting in the wicker chair, she was constantly adjusting her hair and adopting more and more refined poses. It was as if Pamela did not notice this behavior of her mother, but John wrote it off to the fact that she was just used to her and did not pay attention to such trifles. The young mother-in-law's behavior began to bother John somewhat. He realized that he was not looking at his wife, but at her mother, who was increasingly showing him signs of attention. As the pleasant evening came to an end and the neighbors quieted down, John and Pamela began to clear the table. Leaving the kitchen with his wife, he winked at his sweetheart and asked, "Can I expect anything interesting tonight?" "Definitely. I just need to think about something and then take a bath, so you can relax for now." John's wife put an unusual emphasis on the word relax, but he didn't pay much attention to it. He went outside to collect the remaining dishes, and when he returned to the kitchen, his wife was nowhere to be found. People in this house disappear all the time. Gloomily, he thought, and turned back to his mother-in-law. "Rebecca, thank you so much for the invitation and for the evening. We had a wonderful time. I really enjoyed your company too, John. Can you show me where my wife and I have a bedroom? She's disappeared, citing business. Missing? That wretched girl." John thought it was comical that a 27-year-old girl would say that. "Yes, of course I will. I won't leave you." The woman gave her son-in-law another strange look that made him uncomfortable again. "No, she's obviously giving me signs of attention," the man thought, and followed her. Leading him along, she wagged her hips vigorously. Rebecca led her guest down the long hallway of the first floor and headed up the stairs. Following her, he kept his eyes on her. The sculpted muscles on her legs told him that the woman liked to exercise, particularly squats. The man didn't notice the semi-darkness around him, thinking only of the gorgeous body in front of him. They made their way up to the second floor, continuing to ascend without pause. John was stunned by the unexpected development, but continued to remain silent. His mother-in-law, on the other hand, showed no interest in the closed doors on the next floor. "I was under the impression that there are only 3 floors here." "Yes, you're right, only 3. And beyond that, there's only the attic." Upon reaching the topmost level, the man found a lone room whose entrance was indistinguishable from the others. Expecting to see the usual attic cluttered with old and discarded items, John was surprised to find a bedroom with a spacious bed in the center. The decor was simple but charming. "Is this a honeymoon suite?" inquired the puzzled son-in-law. "No, it's our room. You and me, honey," Rebecca replied, locking the door behind John and casting him a meaningful glance. The man felt like a victim caught in the web of an experienced spider, or rather spider-woman. "I don't understand you." The confused son-in-law tried to play the fool. "Think less and do more. You do not think that this is a mistake we should not do it. Does not seem. This is my house, and I alone decide who does what here." But John hesitated, for which he received a pretty solid kick in the chest area. Falling on the bed, and before he could regain consciousness, he found himself sodomized by a woman who always got what she wanted, especially in her own home. Half an hour later, she left the exhausted man alone. "Don't relax. I'll call my daughter now. You still have the same thing to do again with her." I was shocked at this turn of events. My father-in-law had not warned me for nothing, and I thought he had just made it up. But to be honest, I liked it. Show me one normal man who didn't like it.